Welcome back to the Castball Podcast, episode 122. And it's over. It's done. Season's over. All they have left to play for is some rinky-dink little World Series trophy. We can start this episode with a moment of silence for the Seattle Mariners in 2025. They fell just short of ensuring that every single major league team has made the World Series, and now it's still the Mariners on the outside looking in. They won 5 games in the ALDS, and they went to 7 games in the ALCS. I think we all should have expected that. Even in the victories, this team makes it incredibly difficult. I almost recorded this the night of Game 7. I considered it, which I think would have been a much angrier podcast than this one. But I decided to wait so that it could sit with me for at least 24 hours. Now we're at roughly 48 hours post-death of our favorite baseball team. Frankly, I'm not even really that mad a couple days later now. I'm just still sad, very bummed that they got that close. Like, it was the greatest season in Mariners history. There's no doubt about that. They took the best team in the American League to 7 games. They were 9 outs away from the pennant in their first ever World Series appearance. And that's all really awesome. And, maybe in a few weeks or a couple months, I'll look back and really, really, truly smile and be happy about it. But it's just so painful how it all ended immediately. It was also very painful because the Blue Jays, they frankly outplayed the Mariners in the majority of this series. They were the better team over the 7 games. That's obviously they won. Not crazy to say that, but it was so winnable for the Mariners. Like, if the Mariners won that series, I think I still would have said the same thing, that the Blue Jays were the better team. Like, the Mariners deserved to lose that series. And despite that, they had such a good opportunity to win it in the end and did not do so. And I think that's what also makes this a little bit worse. This one, I don't know how long this podcast is going to be. I'm not going to do any season recapping right now. Those season in review pods will follow in the next few weeks here before, like, the free agency filings and all that. You know the deal. I guess I'll talk about the championship series. I left the last podcast with some cautious optimism. They had gone up 2-0 in a very commanding way. But I stressed how quickly things could change just to keep myself grounded. And, they changed. They changed pretty immediately. ALCS games 3 and 4 were just pure ass. Like, really genuinely terrible baseball and a terrible watching experience. I don't have anything to say about these games. It was actually unredeemable watches. And to go after winning such beautiful baseball games in Toronto, going 2 up, going back home, you haven't won an ALCS game there in 24 years. And then laying back-to-back eggs, big fat eggs in those games. Everyone involved was bad in those games. The Blue Jays offense came alive. Obviously, the Mariners pitching didn't look great. The offense looked pretty tepid against, Bieber and the corpse of Max Scherzer. I don't even have anything else to say about these games other than I can't believe they did that. and the fans that went to those games, dude, brutal. And then Game 5 rolls around, and for, most of that game, too, it was a pretty excruciating watch, especially, I imagine, for those in attendance. So I know there's probably people who went to all 3. I'm sure there's people who might be even listening to this, that was their first ALCS in 24 years, and they went to 2001, or that was their first CS experience. And the Mariners nearly gave them the worst possible 3-game ALCS stretch they could. Thank God they saved it in Game 5. But even then, for 8 and a third innings, that Game 5 was also terrible. But then Gino happened in the 8th inning. And God, that was electric. That was absolutely electric. That was the two biggest home runs in Mariners history. I shouldn't even say Gino happened. Cal hit a home run before that in the same inning. Cal hits the biggest home run in Mariners history to tie the game 2-2 in the bottom of the 8th in Game 5. With the series tied at 2-2. Cal's home run's the biggest home run in Mariners history. And then 3 batters later, the bases are loaded and Gino hits the biggest home run in franchise history. Cal held that title for 5 minutes. I almost was out the door too. I had somewhere to be. But I saw it. I knew they were going to win. Went to bed happy that night. If you were there for that game, like, again, it was pretty painful for the 7 innings prior to the 8th there. The Blue Jays had taken the lead in the 6th. It was well pitched, but it was a very Mariners ball game up until that point at home, but the roof was closed, and they just play better with the roof closed. I don't have the stats to back that up, but I think they do. And then a fan favorite hits a second home run of the game to really seal it, and it's a grand slam. And that was the video from center field. That's just one of the fixed cameras that is a really wide shot of the whole field pretty much and the crowd. I've watched that a million times. The crowd looked amazing. The roof being closed made it louder in there for sure. I don't even want to say it was a great game. It was just a great ending. And a valiant ending to go 3-2 up. I wrote this little blurb about Gino like shortly after the game ended. And I'll read it. That nothing he did in the regular season for the team really matters now. This is the night of this game. I wrote this. Nothing he did, that's Gino, did in the regular season for the team really matters now. This is why you acquire him. He was having a dreadful postseason for the team up until this point, and he didn't perform great after they acquired him, but he puts up this performance in Game 5 to put them 1 game away from the World Series for the first time in franchise history. So none of that matters. None of the pitfalls of his post-deadline acquisition matters. The struggles in the postseason up until that point, that doesn't matter really at all. This is what we will remember him for this season, and I wrote in parentheses, for now. That's pretty much holds true after the series is over now. And that's why you go out and acquire hitters you know are good and keep playing them. That is what you do, and that's what I wrote about Gino, and I think it's still true. Even after Game 6 and 7, I think that is what he's going to be remembered by, regardless of the outcome of the series. He has that moment, and it's a beloved fan figure, no less. Like, that makes it that much better. And no one will ever take that away from him, the fans who were there, us who are watching. That still is right now, until further notice, the biggest hit in Mariners history. That game, too, bullpen did exactly what they needed to do. Brash, Woo, who else? Brash, Woo, Spire, Munoz took us home in that one. Bryce Miller was fine to start that game. They go 3-2 up, and they go back to Toronto. And there's a nervousness. I don't even think I was confident going into Game 6. And then Game 6 rolls around, and then they play the worst game they've played all year. They lost Game 7. Losing Game 7 hurts more, probably. Maybe even this one hurts more, but this game was just worse. Their worst played game of the year in a potential pennant clinching win that they had in their grasp going into this game. Squandered almost immediately. 3 errors in this game, 3 straight innings grounding into a double play. I think it was the first game all year they had 3 errors. Brutal time to have that. 2 double plays with the bases loaded in back-to-back innings. Everything sucked in this game. Savage pitched fine. Like he was pretty good for some points. Looked a little shaky in others. He gave them plenty of opportunities to get back in this game. After they went down 2 in the second, and then they went down 4-0 by the start of the 4th inning. They had so many opportunities to put runs on the board, get back in the game, and even take the lead. They had enough runners on base to take the lead after they went down 4-0. And the way that the Blue Jays got those runs, most of them at least, was just so frustrating. It was sloppy. It was awful. Like Varsho singles in the second inning. The ball bounces off the palm in Julio's glove and right out, and Varsho gets to take second. They ruled that as an error, which it is an error. Like Varsho maybe tries for 2 there anyway. He's quite fast. But not that matters now. Like Julio's error secured him a stand-up double where it might have been a close play double, or even Julio throws him out. Who knows? Next batter, Ernie Clement reaches base on a Gino error. Brutal time to have that. Compounded immediately with Julio's error back-to-back. Barger single to score Varsho. IKF single to score Clement. And that was bottom of the order, right? Like this was a theme of this series, is the bottom of the order punishing the Mariners, and this was punishing their mistakes. You'd hope maybe you get, like, you have Clement, Barger, IKF, Jimenez coming up. You think maybe they can work out of that one. Like Logan can work out of it, but no. And then if it wasn't for a Gino gem on a scorched ball from Vladdy, it could have gotten real ugly. They loaded the bases, and Gino made up for his error. Still cost him a run. I mean, Logan still gave up the hit, but that error still came around to score. But Gino saved some runs there. Could have gotten real ugly. Mariners come up in the top of the 3rd, load the bases, double play. Next inning, there's 2 outs in the bottom of the 3rd. Clement triple. Barger socks a dinger off of Logan's slider, which I don't want to talk about right now. 4-0. Mariners come up in the top of the 4th. Bases loaded double play to end the inning. I think it was at that point I think I knew we were going to lose. I don't like doing that in baseball because as the prophet Taylor Saucedo once said, you play 9 fucking innings. But I feel like that it was at that point. It was over. Like Vlad hits a home run in the 5th. Naylor hits a cool home run in the 5th. Gino singles home Randy in that same inning, like enough to give everyone some false hope. Like, oh, maybe they can claw back. 7th inning just seals it. Like Vladdy hit by pitch, Kirk single, Brash wild pitch. The Vladdy hit by pitch, by the way, I did tweet this. Brash striking out Vladdy was that same pitch. Brash just missed his spot in this one. It was that same sinker in on the hands that got Vladdy in that was game 5, right? Am I tripping? Yeah, game 5. Same pitch, just ran in, hit him in the elbow. Then a Brash wild pitch, which Kyle really should have blocked better. I'm kind of surprised they didn't rule this a pass ball. I mean, it was a wild pitch, but Cal should have blocked it, and he really didn't. Skews off down the third base line a little bit, and then he makes an incredibly dumb decision to try and get Vladdy out at third, throws it into left field, 3rd error of the game for the team, 6-2 Blue Jays. That's the ball game. Cal really looked brutal trying to block pitches all playoffs. I think pure fatigue-based He did not look good back there. Like, it's not that he didn't want it or he wasn't focused. Like, none of that. I think it was just pure fatigue, and I feel like you could see it as he failed to block so many pitches that he probably should have blocked in the playoffs. That being the worst case, because then he tried to make up for it when he should have just eaten it. Not that it would have mattered. The offense wasn't putting up runs. And then after that, like I said, the game over. They went very quietly into the Game 6 night. After that, no fight at all. And then Game 7 comes around, and it's like, oh, we're doing this again. They just did freaking Game 5. And in a way, I felt like I was less stressed the entire day before this game, Game 7, than I was for Game 5 of the DS. Weirdly, I don't know how to explain that one to myself. Like, maybe I just made my peace with how far they had come already, and I was like, you know what, screw it, we did Game 5 already, we can do Game 7. But then once they scored, the Mariners did in the first inning to go 1-0, it was over for me. I was unwell. It all hit me right as that run across the plate. Julio double gets to Naylor, who singles him home. And I think at that point it was just like, okay, oh my God, it's like incredibly real. I was like, if game could end right now and they're in the World Series, winning the game 1-0. So before the game, whatever, right after the game started, they took the lead. Then it was like, fuck. Varsho response, singles home Springer, tie game. Then Julio hits his home run in the third. Cal hits his home run in the fifth. It's 3-1. You feel great at that point because Cal and Julio show up in the biggest game of their lives and the biggest game of franchise history. They came up with this franchise. We've seen them grow as players and as individuals. Just a great time was being had by all. Not that we all weren't still incredibly nervous at this time, but it was a fun time seeing those two do that in a Game 7 on the road too. Good stuff. And it was at that point, I think, that the out counter started in my head. It was 15 outs from the World Series. Brian Wu comes in, tosses 2 scoreless, 9 outs from the World Series, and that's where they stopped forever. Like, literally, they were 9 outs from the World Series. That's the closest they've been, and it'll stay that way for the foreseeable future. After the JP jump throw double play, I was buzzing. Like, that felt so good. It was a beautiful 6 innings. It was a classic Mariners affair in the playoffs. Kirby and Wu combined to get them through 6. Cal and Julio, like I said, were the offensive catalyst. The homegrown guys were getting it done on the mound and at the plate in the biggest game in franchise history, in the biggest game any of them have ever played in their lives, in a different country, in a foreign nation. Something special about that. Like, I think also these guys are all, like, around my age. I feel like I've grown up a little bit with them. I've grown along with them. They've developed into stars. I haven't developed into an MLB superstar yet. And then the bottom of the 7th began. And frankly, the way this inning started was super on brand for this series. It was the bottom of the Jays order again, getting things going, and it was a leadoff base runner. It was a Barger walk to start the inning. It felt like, and this is partially the fault of Mariners pitching, partially credit to the Blue Jays hitters, it felt like every freaking inning these Blue Jays needed a base runner. The leadoff hitter would either walk or hit a double. Just that felt like that happened every single time they needed it. Barger walks, IKF singles, which was a shocking mistake pitch from Wu on 0-2. Sweeper directly in the middle of the zone on 0-2 to IKF. Why not just keep throwing high-forcing fastballs against Isaiah Kiner-Falefa? I think he's going to swing and miss at one of them. Whatever. Jimenez sack bunt to get them to second and third. And then the top of the order comes up. You know what happens next. George Springer took a knife and stuck it directly in my throat. He threw salt in my eyes. He built a bronze bull with his bare hands during that at bat and threw me inside of it, along with Edward Bizardo, my best boy. And then they lost that game. You know, it felt like something bad was going to happen when Springer was coming up to bat in that spot. Like, he's objectively one of the best playoff hitters of all time. And then you add in his history against the Mariners and also what had happened in Game 5 with him getting hit on the knee and the booing fiasco and all the incredibly tiresome discourse around that. The day leading or after the Game 5. It's also extra painful because nobody likes that guy in baseball. Like, Astros fans like him. Now Jays fans probably like him, but it's because he's a cheater. He was part of the 2017 scandal. Nobody except for the Astros and Jays fans are rooting for anything good to happen to him. So that made it a little bit worse. And then Bassett had the 8th. They had nothing for him. And then they got absolutely beasted on in back-to-back days by Jeff Hoffman. Jeff fucking Hoffman in the year 2025. Jeff Hoffman, who pitched 2 innings the day before, shuts him down in the 9th inning, strikes out the side. 8-9-1 up to bat did not help. And Julio's at bat was, oh, buddy. Like, that's not the reason they lost this game, but that didn't help the narratives about him swinging at sliders out of the zone. That was, like, Rivas, JP, Julio could have just not swung at anything. And I think the bases would have been loaded. It was Canzone, my bad. It was Rivas, Canzone, and Julio. Yep, there's 4 balls to Leo Rivas in the 6th pitch at bat. Canzone's wasn't as simple. And then Julio's for sure. Julio wasn't given a strike, which is why it was even uglier. And then the game ended. And I don't even know if I was mad when the game ended. I think I just stared at my TV. After the Springer home run, there was no emotion left in my body, I don't think. I think I'd give my all up to that point for these 12 playoff games and the September we watched for this baseball team. And the Springer home run, I think, was just like a cathartic experience. I think every emotion got flushed from my body. And then I just stared into the void until the game ended. Like, the hurt from this loss might never wear off. Like, until they get to the World Series at some point, hopefully, then this moment is going to live forever in my head as one of the most painful things that's ever happened to me. And as a reminder that they've never been to the World Series and never won a pennant, it's just going to live there. And it was George Springer, of all people. George Springer. That makes it so much worse. If it was like Nathan Lukes, it would have hurt. But it's Nathan, like, what? I don't have anything against that guy. Or if it was Vladdy. Vladdy's at least likable. Maybe if you're a Yankees fan, you don't like him. But he's likable. Why couldn't it have been him? And it wasn't even a walk-off either. Like, it felt so over after it, but it wasn't a walk-off. Like, it shouldn't have felt over after that, but it did. Like, they had 2 more innings to score at least 1 run against the Jays' pen. That should have been doable. It didn't happen. Just was not meant to be, I guess. They lost this game and the series for multiple reasons, but let's talk about this game specifically because there's plenty of discourse around the 7th inning. They lost this game for multiple reasons. I mean, it was a combination of the offense being inept for most of the game, a very crucial error by Dan Wilson, in my opinion, and an unfortunate pitch, and a great swing from George Springer. People saying Dan lost this game alone, people are hyperbolic talking about sports, especially on the internet. And with baseball, it's never just one thing. Like this one, it's like, yeah, like Dan made that error. Bizzardo gave up the home run, but the offense was also pretty putrid most of this game. They had 0 hits after Cal's home run. After Cal's home run, which was in the 5th inning, they had 0 hits as a team against 1 inning apiece of Seranthony Dominguez, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, and Jeff Hoffman. That is not the Padres' fucking bullpen, man. That is not the best the Dodgers have to offer you. That is Seranthony Dominguez, Kevin Gausman, Chris Bassett, and Jeff Hoffman. No hits? Like that, like Dan can't control that. He can't go up there and strap on a helmet and hit for this team. And if he did, he wasn't a very good hitter in the playoffs either. Not a very good hitter at all in his career. So that doesn't make any sense. But he does have something to do with why my sweet, sweet boy, Edward Bizzardo, was crucified up there in the bottom of the 7th. Left to die for Dan's sins all year. Bizzardo, the martyr. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about the decision. That's why you're here. That's all anyone's ever going to talk about from this game forever and ever. It has been, at least, for the past 48 hours. And I think, again, it's going to be the story. It's going to be Springer home run. That's going to be the first thing people bring up. And then the next thing is going to be, oh, I can't believe Dan brought in Bizzardo. Let's talk about the decision. I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen, the million different takes on this. Like I have. I'm here to offer my usual, very reasonable take on the matter after sitting with this for 48 hours. The first thing I do need to say about this, I've seen, and this is mostly from non-Mariners fans to give some context, I've seen people saying they should have put Munoz in. Yes, I agree with that. But then talking about Bizzardo like he's some like nobody reliever. Like, why would they put this guy in, huh? You know, this jamoke. Like, let's cool that talk, all right? Bizzardo has been a revelation for this team this year, all year. He's pitched a ton and really solid innings. In the playoffs, he's been pretty damn good in these spots, too. A couple gafoos here and there, but comes with the territory. That's the take I don't care for. Is treating Bizzardo like he's just some middle reliever when he's not. Like, treat him with some respect, okay? This is not like they put in Carlos Vargas. Then fine. Talk about Carlos Vargas that way. Don't talk about Bizzardo this year that way. Now, I've seen all the takes. I've seen all the other takes. A lot of M's fans saying they should have left Wu in to face the top of the lineup. Takes to put Munoz in, takes to put Brash in, put Bizzardo in, and walk Springer. I've considered all these decisions. And I'm going to give a reason to take on the whole thing. Now, let's just run through the inning for Dan here in the 7th. He's got Wu. It's 3-1. He's got Wu on the mound, who pitched in Game 5 and was not healthy enough, not deemed healthy enough by the team for them to start him at all in the ALCS. He pitched in Game 5. He gives you 2 scoreless innings in this ball game. Comes back out, which is fine. I think that's fine to bring him back out for the 7th. I think the plan was to pitch him and have him give everything he could possibly give you. So putting him back out there for the 7th, fine with that decision. I haven't seen people really be that mad about that at all. I don't think anyone is seriously saying they should have taken Wu out. Everyone's talking about the aftermath. He walks Barger, gives up the single to IKF, Jimenez sack bunts. Here's the first critical junction of the inning, obviously. This is the first decision Dan needs to make, is leave him in or take him out. Some people have said leave him in. I support the move to take him out. Like, some people want to leave him in. I think that's kind of dumb. It's second and third, 1 out, with Springer in the top of the order coming up. Wu is on his third inning of relief, and the biggest indicator that you should take him out, honestly, was that 0-2 sweeper to IKF. That to me is the biggest indicator of why you take him out. And the Barger walk wasn't great either. It was 1 strike on a foul and 4 really uncompetitive fastballs. That, and then you get 0-2 to IKF and throw him the sweeper down the middle. That is the indicator to take him out. So I think people saying leave him in, I very much disagree with that. I think it was a good idea to take him out. Like, yeah, Wu got Springer to strike out in Game 5. That doesn't matter right now with what I just saw from him from the previous 2 at-bats. And again, he pitched in Game 5 already. You don't think he's healthy enough to start. He's already thrown 2 innings tonight. Taking him out here, it's a good idea. Now, no matter what pitcher you bring in, there is also the take that you should just walk Springer with first base open. You could have done that with Wu and then put a pitcher in. And I disagree with this one as well. I see the merits of it because of just how good Springer has been this season, how good he's been in the playoffs historically. First base is open. But that also puts the go-ahead run on base. And then you have Lukes and Vladdy coming up after this with 1 out. They haven't really been able to get Lukes out all series very effectively. He's been on base multiple times a game. I think every game except for Game 1. Please fact check me on that. I know he didn't have any hits in Game 1. He had a hit and or a walk in every other game. He was seeing the ball well. You're giving up the platoon advantage with Bizardo, Brash, or Munoz as well if you just put Springer on and have Luke's hit. And then you're praying for a ground ball to get a double play or a strikeout. Or, like, double play obviously is the best case scenario. Next best, you get a strikeout. Next best, it's some kind of out. Worst case, in your mind, it's a sacrifice fly. You give up a run, but you're still winning, and it's first and second with, or no, it's just a runner. Oh, no, this is Springer at first. My bad. I'm talking myself into a pretzel. So then sacrifice fly would be first and second, 2 outs. If any of that doesn't happen, even if you don't get a double play at all, then Vladdy is up with runners on base. Worst case, he's up with the bases loaded, and they've scored a run already. Either way, Vladdy is up with runners on base with an opportunity to take the lead, and that's bad for business. So I think the most logical thing there is to bring in a pitcher that you want for sure to be able to face Springer and Lukes because you need 2 outs. So walking Springer, I'm just kind of out on altogether. The crucial decision then, obviously, here, that Dan does get wrong, is he goes with Bizardo. But why? Why does he go with Bizardo? Bizardo has been putting fires out for them all year. In the playoffs, he did too. He is a heavy sinker guy, which means you're looking for something on the ground, which would be very advantageous to you. Some people on the internet are defending Dan, putting Bizardo in, and pulling up Bizardo's like stranded runners rate, his percentage, which has been excellent all season. That is true. I don't think that's a valid defense of this particular situation. I understand there are runners on base and you're looking to strand them, but that's looking at an entire sample size of regular season baseball. This is the biggest situation of the year. And Dan essentially said this in his postgame. He said Bizardo's been doing it all season long and has been so consistent at it, and he's done such a good job all year. And he's talking about this situation, which is true. He's been pretty good in this situation. And yeah, like you take this situation out of a Game 7 context of the ALCS, and you just treat it like a usual baseball game. Putting Bizardo in this game right now on merit of his pitching ability And what he's done this season makes sense. You try and get out of the inning with one of your best guys, limit the damage, get to the 8th and 9th where you can have your truly best guy, Munoz or Brash, come in and close it down. The problem with that line of thinking is this is not a regular season game. Like, this is a completely different game. This is the biggest game in franchise history. And with their best coming up, with runners on, you simply have to go with your best, which is Andres Munoz. That is the protocol here in the playoffs. That is how you have to treat this game. It's Game 7 of the ALCS. Like, fuck the rest of the game. You're thinking about that moment then and there. You're not thinking about the rest of the game if you get out of it, how you're going to handle the pitching. You can't be thinking like that in this game. The bottom of the 7th gave you the highest leverage situation of this ball game up to that point. And you needed to get your most trusted and best reliever in the game to handle it, and Dan didn't do that. And that's the error here. I get people defending Dan for putting Bizzardo in, but respectfully, it was the wrong move. I don't care what his strand rate was. And that's coming from a man loves Edward Bizzardo. I bought Bizzardo stock in 2023. I'm a rich man after this year, and I'm still saying that. That's the wrong spot to lean on anything other than the idea of, let's go get our biggest, baddest dog out of the bullpen right now for the top of their order. That's the only thing that Dan should have been thinking about. It also makes sense from just a series perspective of how often they've seen Bizzardo and how much rest he's gotten compared to Munoz. You hear people talk about how often relievers and pitchers see hitters in the playoffs all the time, because it really, really matters, especially in this day and age where you're using a reliever so often. It really does matter how often they see certain parts of the order, and you need to be keeping track of that in game, and it would probably be pretty difficult. I'm not going to say it's an easy job, but Bizzardo would pitch in Game 6, which in the playoffs hadn't really mattered if he pitched a back-to-back. He only threw 15 pitches in Game 6. And to his credit, he got Springer out on a sinker that game. But the fact that he faced him at all in Game 6 goes against him. They just saw him. He pitched in Game 4, too, against Lukes, Vladdy, Kirk, and Varsho. So even if he got Springer out, he still recently also saw Lukes and Vladdy. They saw Bizzardo in Game 2 as well. He came in and pitched. Munoz was fresh. He had thrown in Game 1 and Game 5. He didn't throw it all in Game 6. He had multiple days rest. He's your best guy. You go with Munoz there every time. And like Dan, the rookie manager that he is, he had his missteps like this in the playoffs this season. And this ended up being the costliest of his mistakes. And it happened at the exact wrong time. I don't think this is one you have to think about too often or too much. I don't think you think about this decision too much. This is one of those, not even old school, this is one of those gut calls where you're like, yeah, I'm going to get my best guy out here because that is the best decision. Now, like Bizzardo said, it wasn't a bad pitch. I don't know about that. He got him out with a similar pitch in Game 6. Also what he said, sure. He's not all the way wrong. It wasn't the same location. He got Springer to roll over on a sinker in Game 6. It was more up in the zone where Bizzardo likes his sinker. But this pitch he threw was a little bit more middle down and in. A pitch that, some of the time, Springer's grounding that pitch out to the shortstop. Or putting a weak fly ball into left field. But he was ready. After seeing that first sinker go way inside, he was just on that second pitch. It was just an unfortunate sequence of events. Munoz also could have come in and given up a home run to Springer in that exact same way. Puts a fastball in the middle of the zone. Springer dings it right out. That's entirely possible. But I and everyone else would not be talking about this decision as much if that happened. I am okay bleeding out with Andres Munoz on the mound. It would still hurt, probably the same, but I don't think anybody would have questioned Dan in bringing Munoz in there. If it didn't work out, didn't work out. I don't think anyone would be like, yeah, he shouldn't have brought his best pitcher in that situation. And also, like, look at the box score for this ball game. Bizardo is the worst Mariners pitcher to throw in this game. Kirby, Wu, Bizardo, Munoz. And yet the biggest spot of the whole game goes to your worst pitcher you threw in this game. Going to Brash there would have made a little bit more sense, but Munoz still would have made the most sense. And Joe Davis was saying it, man. Joe Davis he was not yelling, but he was like out of his mind. He was like, why don't they have Munoz up throwing in the pen? And I remember Smoltz was like, well, Andres Jimenez is a sack bunt situation. Joe's like, no, get him up throwing so he can come in after Jimenez sack bunts. Like, Joe Davis knew. Who also, I like Joe Davis. I don't think he was that great in this series. Correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I hate Smoltz. That's never going to change. But I wasn't enamored with Joe Davis like I usually am in this series. Major sidetrack there, but it's over. I mean, that's it. That's over. That's the decision. That was my breakdown of the situation. I think it's very fair. Let me know if you think I'm wrong, but I think I'm right. The Mariners hitting, I mean, this series, it was like the Mariners hitting wasn't good enough for the majority of the series against like a very not great pitching staff in Toronto. The starting pitching let them down too. Like Bryce Miller's game one start was really the only start you could point to as like a bona fide like great start for the team. The other starts just weren't good enough. I mean, Kirby was fine in Game 7. Paired with a Wu, it was fine, but it was just the starting pitching ultimately did let them down. It was pretty emblematic of the season that the Mariners had, that the starting pitching was what fell short in the series. It hurts a lot, but that's what happened. And again, I don't think the offense was good enough against a pitching staff that we saw was shaky, and they just didn't take good enough advantage with runners in scoring position. That's also kind of poetic. It's Mariners' heritage. Runners in scoring position, awful this whole series, and that's kind of just that's the Mariners, baby. That is Mariners baseball. What also I should say it's a credit to the Blue Jays lineup. Like, the starters were not very good, equally as much as the Blue Jays lineup all year has just been damn good. A really good lineup through and through, balanced, and just comes up in big spots. What also determined this series was the bottom of the order for each team. The Mariners, as good and as deep of a lineup as they had performing in the regular season after the trade deadline, the bottom of the order reared its ugly head as we all kind of not assumed but feared that it would. I don't want to bring it back to the team building of Jerry Dipoto, but again, it's just these guys were better in the regular season, like Canzone and JP, like Robles Rivas. They were just not good enough this series. Like, at the top of the lineup, Randy was not good enough for what we know he can be. But the rest of the guys in the top half of the order had a good ALCS. Like, you break it out just with OPS, and I think the top of the Mariners order, like 1 through 6, went toe-to-toe with the Blue Jays 1 through 5. But then both lineups, like 6 through 9 guys in the order, night and day difference in the quality of at-bats and the at-bat outcomes. Like, the Jays guys just raked all the way through. Like, Clement, Barger, IKF, and Jimenez were just annoying all series, and that was enough to make the difference. I was dreading having to go through Clement, Barger, IKF. Like, I should not be dreading that. That's nasty, especially IKF and Jimenez. Jimenez hit back-to-back fucking home runs in Seattle in a not very warm, like, time of the month. For Christ's sake, that should have been the sign that the Mariners were going to lose this series, was Andres Gimenez back-to-back home runs. Very ridiculous. And again, despite all of that, the Mariners were still 9 outs away from taking the series and just couldn't close it out. So that's it. Where do they go from here? It's kind of a doozy of an offseason that this team's going to need going into right now. It's crucial guys walking, it's arbitration increases, it's volatile, risky, but potentially game-changing signings coming over from NPB. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. I'm not going to talk about it at all right now. I don't know where they go from here. There's a lot that could be done. I will certainly have my takes about it. You know that. And then my only thing is 2026 is going to be the last year that baseball is going to be played, actually. So they better make it count, is all I'm saying. But thank you for listening. If you listen to this podcast all the way through this episode, if you've been listening all season, I really do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart. If you've listened all season, if you're listening to this right now, I appreciate it so much. It's been quite the season. Ultimately, some of the most fun. Honestly, not some of it. From September 4th until that George Springer home run was the most fun I've ever had watching sports. I don't even think it's close. It was so much fun to watch that team. And it was a good season, but sad ending, but we move on. We know pain. We're Mariners fans. But again, thank you very much for listening to this episode, for listening to any of them during the regular season or the playoffs. I'll leave you with it. Of course, have a great rest of your week. I'll be back sometime soon to talk about kind of the year, more focused on the individual seasons guys had, and then we'll break down the offseason to come. But look out for those. And, of course, I'll leave you with a final Go Mariners of the 2025 season. See ya.